What's up, everybody? Roster Reviews here, and I'm back at it again with another video. And today we're talking about episode 5 of A Game of Thrones season 7. So this was a pretty good setup episode going into what's basically the climax, the dreaded episode 9 of the season. So there was a lot of setup that's about stuff that's going to happen next episode. So let's just jump into it and break this all down. All right, so right off the bat, Jaime is saved by Bronn, pulled out of the water, and Bronn basically tells him, hey, listen, the only reason I'm doing this is because you promised me a castle, and you always tell us that Lannisters pay his debts. I always get mad at you for saying it, so I better be getting my damn castle. Jaime's kind of shitting his pants, though, because he's like, oh, man, I saw a lot of shit that I didn't want to see, and it gave him flashbacks of the Mad King, so understandably, he's probably a little shook from this battle. Next, I didn't think that the Dothraki would actually be looting the Lannister men, because they always talk about how Lannisters can't fight, and men in steel armor and stuff like that, and how they're superior. So I'm kind of shocked to see them taking stuff from them, but at the same time I'm not, because it is Dothraki culture. So then Dany gives a choice that's really not actually a choice. Even if these men do switch sides and serve her, they're probably still going to die anyway, so that, it's just who they're dying for, and they don't really have a say in it, which kind of sucks. So, naturally, Tarly is like, yeah, I'm not bowing to you, which, kind of sucks, because then, he actually supported the Mad King during Robert's Rebellion. He was the only commander that beat Robert Baratheon in a battle in that war, so, he would be a pretty good ally, and actually he would have gone back to his original alliance, but I can see where a man like Tarly cares so much about the family name that, he's just going to die and forget about it. So then when Dickon walks up, it's even harder for him, because he's just like, that's it, my house is dying, stuff like that. And Dickon's kind of an idiot for stepping up. I understand, him not wanting to serve, the woman who burned his father alive and stuff like that. And Tyrion makes that point, but I mean, it's Dickon. What do you want me to say at this point? So then when Jaime's talking to Cersei and is just like, hey, we're not going to win this war. We need to really strategize here and probably think about, not fighting and trying to just be executed and just be gone with it. Cersei kind of shows her true colors and says, I'm going to die fighting and all that other stuff. And knowing Cersei, it's just going to be real bad, because she's going to try to blow up the city and stuff like that, and really be the Mad Queen, and it's just going to be a bad time for everybody involved. I like when Cersei started to realize that it really wasn't Tyrion that killed Joffrey, and that it was Olenna, and she believes Jaime, because not only does she say damn, I should have really tortured her and stuff like that, and she also realizes the set of events that led her to where she is now, because of what she did, and was so sure that it was Tyrion. So, to see that all those dominoes go over in her head was really impressive. And Lena Headey really did a good job with that scene, showing so much emotion with just her face and no dialogue for that 3 seconds. So then we get a money shot of the episode where, Jon's actually touching Drogon, and, he comes all running up like a dog. And then, he puts his hand out, lets him sniff it, and then actually touches him. And Drogon's just like, all right, yeah, I approve. So that was really cool to see, especially, with his Targaryen blood and stuff like that, and how he kind of has his own animal that doesn't really get mentioned at all. I really do wish that Jon had brought Ghost. So then, especially if he's this massive direwolf, staring down a dragon and seeing that, the wolf is not afraid of the dragon. That would have been a really cool scene, but that's all right. We got Dany kind of freaking out. Oh my god, is Drogon gonna eat Jon? What's going on down there? And see that he's actually good with them, and the dragon approves. I really think starts to help Dany see Jon as a true ally, and all that other stuff that comes with it. Also, when she says, oh, they're beautiful, aren't they? And Jon's just that wasn't the word I was gonna use, making a joke, and then he looks up and she's staring at him, and he's just yeah, beautiful, yeah, shit. I love that she's bringing back up the whole knife in the heart thing, because she was so concerned about it, and it is a really interesting dynamic to really pull off in this show. What happened with Jon, his resurrection, and then Davos kind of slipping that information out there and seeing Jon being ashamed of it and stuff like that. So it's really interesting to see that be a continuous piece in this season, in that story arc. And then in true Lord Friendzone fashion, Jorah walks up and completely interrupts a nice moment between Jon and Dany just to have a more awkward moment because he's like, oh, you're dating again, aren't you? So now Bran sends that pack of ravens out. Flock? Murder. No, that's crows. So the ravens fly and, they spy out over where the Night King's at and where, if you paid attention to what the Hound was saying, pretty much in that general area, he describes the mountain and stuff like that that's back there. So Bran finds them, and I love how the Night King just, looks over and just, I see you, motherfucker. And, Bran's just like, oh, shit, get out of there. And, pulls himself out and then says to the Maester, who's obviously creeped as fuck right now because he's just, watching Bran have a vision. Maester Wilkin's been through a lot of shit. And, I honestly, feel bad for that guy. He's in, 3 seconds an episode, if that, and I still feel bad for this dude. When Bran wants to send the ravens, it's kind of like, wait, didn't you just take all the ravens? But either way, they get to everywhere fast. They had the jetpacks on them and got right to the Citadel in just a nick of time for Samwell to be there in the same room. So Sam hears the other Maesters talking about the letter that Bran sent, and that's when he's like, hey, listen, if you guys say it, people will believe you. And they just kind of brush it off, and Samwell leaves and starts to really feel a disconnect between what he thought the Maesters would be and what they actually are. I love when the Maesters are like, oh, this could be a ploy from the Dragon Queen, and it's just like, well, how would she have gotten the official seal of Winterfell and the Starks? Wouldn't you people think about that? And then that's when, they mention that word did get to the Citadel that both of the Tarleys were dead, and he hadn't told Samwell yet, so he doesn't even know that Dickon and his dad are dead. I'm sure he won't care about Dickon, or won't care about his dad, but he will care about Dickon. So I like Varys talking about how he felt about the Mad King, where he really kind of had to tell himself that it wasn't his fault and stuff like that, and I'm sure that plays true with a lot of, say, high-ranking officers for less than stellar people in life that, they just kind of follow orders and do what they need to do to keep themselves alive, and then seeing their non-action, what it brought the world, really must suck. And in true Tyrion fashion, he comes up with the worst fucking plan of all fucking time. Let's send a bunch of people out north, get a White Walker, and bring it back. How would you think that was going to work? Do you just talk to hear yourself talk, or do you actually think about the words you're saying, my man? I don't know. Maybe you're just trying to pull this crazy shit so you can kind of get back on Dany's good side, but I don't know what the hell you're thinking, man, but you got to lay off the wine a little bit. But in true hero fashion, Jorah and Jon are just like, yeah, we're going. And, Dany's just, trying to pull, the sweet, I haven't commanded you to leave, and he's just like, yeah, I don't need your help. Because, you can see that obviously Jon and Dan are, gaining affection for each other, and not just in terms of friendship and respect between two powerful leaders, but there is a romance there, which, again, everyone's complaining it's incest, but, honestly, I don't really care at this point anymore. I think it's one of the few things right that they're doing this season is building that love and showing us that, there is something a little bit more there than just all that stuff, and I think it's one of the only parts that actually works about this season. Also, I like the plan about going to King's Landing, because as soon as they said that, I knew we were finally getting to see the reunion of a long favorite character that hasn't been around for a long time, and we got some great references to that later on. So Sansa ends up talking to the lords in Winterfell, and they're like, oh, we shouldn't have elected Jon Snow as king, we should have elected you. It just seems so weird that out of nowhere, Lord Glover a couple months ago was saying oh, I regret that I didn't fight for you, and is now already ready to betray him and stuff, and they don't understand what's coming, what Jon is trying to do for them, and it just kind of sucks. But at the same time, Sansa really didn't betray Jon. Yeah, I can see she might be entertaining the idea of becoming Queen of Winterfell and stuff like that, but I don't know. Arya, I think, is nuts at this point and is kind of lost and without redemption. So, maybe I'm just being a little hard on it because I really don't like the way they took the character. And especially when Arya mentions, like, we should execute those lords, like, they should die because they talk shit about our king. Like, A, that's something just as bad that Joffrey would do. And B, Robb killing a very faithful lord is kind of like what sent him down the Red Wedding. He executed Lord Karstark, and, that ended up losing him their house and their support. So, there was a lot of mistakes made there for why you shouldn't execute powerful people that kind of like slightly betray you or just really lose faith in something that's not around, basically. So we get to King's Landing, and the scene with Tyrion and Jaime was fantastic. Like, I think all along Jaime knew exactly why, Tyrion killed Tywin, but he didn't really want to admit it to himself. Like, he has this vision of his father, and he didn't want to break that, and I can totally see that. And to see them, come a little bit further than that was pretty cool. So when we get into Flea Bottom, I know exactly where Davos is going. I know exactly who he's trying to find. And sure enough, Gendry comes back. He's not rowing anymore. He's making some weapons. And I love that they mentioned that, I thought you'd still be rowing, like, nodded to us as fans. That was a little fan service. That was great. Then when he pulls out the Warhammer with the Baratheon sigil on it was another win. It got me real fired up that he's back. And when I watched the episode, the guard that comes out, I was like, dude, that was totally the guy who played Ned Stark in the play of last season. And sure enough, on Tuesday, it came out that I was right. So that was also fermented crab. Sounds really, really weird. Not only just, not the effects of it, but just the concept of like fermenting crab to eat, just, sitting by the sea, room temperature, probably doesn't sound very good. So then Tyrion comes back, ruins the whole thing, and then we get to see Gendry in action just smashing people with a hammer. And then next we get the creepiest scene of the episode where Jaime goes back and Qyburn and Cersei are talking, and she's like, oh, I could give you something for that. And she's like, no, that's great. And then announces that she's pregnant, and Jaime is still firing true. One hand, not a sword hand, but he can still impregnate his sister. Great. Great job, Jaime. So that's when Cersei says, hey, I knew that you met with Tyrion. Like, are you going to punish Bronn? Like, this, and that. And, like, he's like, dude, tells her what's going on. And Cersei's like, okay, that's fine. And, like, hugs him and then is like, don't you ever betray me again. And Jaime's like, motherfucker. He's finally starting to pick up that she's fucking batshit. So next up we get Jon and Gendry finally meeting. And I like that he doesn't lie to him, just tells him exactly who he is. And, they make all the connections for us. They really spell it out because it's been a while since we've seen Robert Baratheon around and Gendry. Also, I think there's a very high chance that Jon or Dany could legitimize him for his role in, this War for the Night. And, we'll see them take back Storm's End once again. So Jorah and Tyrion get to meet up again, finally on screen, and they reminisce about their Season 5 travels together. He says goodbye to the Queen. She makes the obvious joke that, they always say goodbye and never hello. And then when he talks to Jon, you definitely see her laying the flowers down so he can ride off to battle with the power of love. And then he also says, I wish you good fortune in the wars to come, which is a great thing that tons of people have said to each other. First it was said to Ned from Arthur at the Tower of Joy. Then it was said from Mance to Stannis in Season 4. And now from Jon to Dany, everything's coming around. So Gil is just kind of reading and, spurting out facts that she's learning because she's so excited that she can read. And then she drops the part about Prince Rhaegar getting an annulment and marrying someone else. So if you didn't pick up on that exactly like Sam didn't, that means that Rhaegar Targaryen left officially Elia Martell and married Lyanna Stark before Jon was born. Therefore, Jon is actually a legitimate and true Targaryen. A lot of people think his name would be Jaehaerys. I've seen Aegon, stuff like that. But, all we know is that he's officially a Targaryen. Therefore, actually giving him a better claim to the throne than Dany herself. But we'll see how that all turns out, because at this point, I think they're going to either make a love pact or one of them's not going to die, or one of them will die, so, a marriage really doesn't matter in the end. Also, I really hope that Sam brought that book, because that is honestly the single most important book in Westeros at this point. Because it has that bit of information in it that nobody else knows. When he mentions the part about reading about the achievements of better men and how he doesn't want to do that anymore, that's a full callback to what his father said to him last season. And you can really see this growth in Samuel, that he needs to be on the front lines. He needs to be right there with John. He's no good to somebody sniffing around in books, basically. Now, just when you think that Peter Baelish is about to retire, he's down for the count, there's just nothing left in him anymore. He comes out and you still find that he is just as masterful at manipulating as ever. That scene that he put Arya on was fucking great, bringing her that trap with the letter. Fantastic, because she's going to be a loose cannon. She's not going to listen to Sansa, all that other stuff, because, why would she at this point? I mean, Arya is just completely off the rails, so we'll see what ends up happening with this next episode and in the finale. And last but not least, we get Jon at the wall. Again, using that lightspeed travel to get around exactly where he needs to go as fast as he can. Tormund mentions, did you bring Brienne? Nope, sorry. And Jon kind of laughs a little bit, and he's like, damn, you're not giving her up, eh? So, come to find out, Thoros of Myr, the Hound, and Beric Dondarrion also made it to the wall, and they were put in cells because they said they wanted to go north of the wall. And once we established that everyone's got problems with everybody else, Snow Team 6 was born. The Motley Crows, the A-Team, the Magnificent Seven, Suicide Squad, whatever you want to call them, they're ready to go. And they head off into the wilderness in a flying V pattern just like any Mighty Duck would. And that's where the episode ends, and we'll see what's going to happen this week. So as you guys know, it's episode 6. We only have 7 episodes, so this is going to be the climax of the season. To date, this is also going to be the longest episode, but then that's going to lose its title next Sunday unless HBO decides to, release that early again. HBO, you've been having a lot of trouble with these fucking hacks and leaks, and you guys need to step up your game, bro. Well, either way, guys, you know the drill. Hit that like and subscribe button. Hit me up in the comments down below if you want to say anything about the episode, maybe bounce some stuff off me. I'm going to try to reply as much as I can. Anyway, guys, this has been Rosso Reviews. Rosso, signing off.